All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insanely 13, as we are about to get underway for the 8th round of X League's GT3 Pro Cup. Real quickly, let's look through some of the drivers who will be partaking in today's event. Dex Carino in number 69 BMW will be putting him entrant on the pole once again. Breezy Rain is back in the Chevrolet. So is It's Maze, who is going to be in the number 13 Chevrolet. Agent D's is going to be in the number 88 Aston Martin Vantage, as will TCPP Photo, although they will be in the number 43 Aston Martin Vantage. SPV Matthews is back in the Ferrari number 27. Rebirth Quint is going to be in the Dodge Viper in the number 3. SRT Jeff DXD will be in the number 55 Ford GT. CLN Clinical will be in another Dodge. Maserati Racer will be in another one of the Ferraris. The number 21 Chevy will be driven by Tempered Ship. IRT Subaru will be in the number 22 Aston Martin Vantage. Indiel Shadow is back in the BMW M8. Les Railgun is back in the Milwaukee Ford machine as well. And we're not going to be able to show you anyone else's paint schemes right now. I do apologize for that. But real quickly, let's go ahead and look over the championship standings as they are right now in the series. In the team's championship, Porsche still only has 9 points, and it's a big gap to Ferrari with 141 points. Dodge has 178 points. BMW has 243 points right now with 2 wins on the season. Aston Martin has 275 points. Ford is second with 287 points and 4 wins, and Chevrolet has 385 points at this stage in the season. In the Drivers' Championship, it looks like this. Arrow is still 23rd with 9 points. Little Kid Suave is 22nd with 12 points. Front-wheel drive Doherty has 15 points in 21st place. 20th is Sir Brandy A1 with 27 points, which puts him into a tie with SSR Quinn. 18th is Inlaid Wheat with 30 points. 17th is Dex Carino with 36 points, which puts him into a tie with VNX Ruins, who also has 36 points. 15th is Maserati Racer with 45 points. 14th is Agent Diesel with 47 points. 13th is Leswick 98 with 54 points. 12th is HGR Turtle with 57 points. 11th is Tempered Ship 142 with 58 points. There's a tie for 9th between TCPP Photo and SRT Jeff DXD. Both of them have 60 points each. There's also a tie for 7th with NDL Violet and NDL Aedolis. They both have 66 points each. 6th is NWR Arcana with 84 points. 5th is Rebirth with 94 points. Then we get to your championship contenders. 30 points out of the championship is It's Maze. He has 147 points at this stage of the season. Breezy Rain is third with 150 points. Second is Les Railgun. He has 161 points. And leading the championship right now is Indiel Shadow with 177 points at this stage of the season. As we prepare to get onto the circuit proper here, we're going to be looking at a slightly smaller field for tonight's race compared to what we had last night. Only 15 cars will be racing in today's event. Last night's event in the Porsche Cup, if any of you ended up missing it, was very chaotic, despite the fact that Kylami doesn't really have any issues with walls being right around the track like Bathurst. There ended up being a significantly high number of accidents throughout the entire event. About 4 safety cars in last night's event as well, which really slowed the pace down and made strategy go all over the place. But Dex Carino did bounce back, got some redemption from having the Porsche Cup victory at Bathurst taken from by taking the Porsche Cup victory in the Kylami race last night. If we can go green flag to flag tonight, though, that could end up being a little bit different, because while Carino is still up here at the front, we do have championship contenders of Railgun right there in the mix as well. Also, quick shout out to the NDL team. Their entries dominated HYR's Silverstone 10-hour Enduro earlier today. When I say dominated, both in the LMP2 and GT3 category, they were over a full lap distance ahead of their closest rivals. So yeah, the NDL team is flying very high right now, and with NDL Shadow going to be starting third, it's going to be looking very good for him as well. NDL Violet, the other NDL driver entered in today's event, is going to be starting near the back of the grid after completely missing qualifying. So that's a lot more suboptimal for them, but they will be trying to make that number 76 Prada Ferrari make their way up the grid. But they'll be behind RET Subaru, TCPP Photo, and Agent D's. Not a great time for Aston Martin. All 3 of their entrants qualifying right at the ass end of the field in today's race. So Aston Martin looking to have an absolutely atrocious time. They're not the only ones. Dodge, Rebirth Quint, and CLN Clinical both right here near the rear of the grid. And then Chevys, Breezy Rain and Tempered Ship stuck right on top of each other. You have Matthews ahead of them, but it does seem like there is a lot of... Oh, it looks like XR Monaco has just dropped out of the event already. He was supposed to be doing one of the 2 safety car use, but it looks like he's pulled out. already. But yeah, it's just not looking like a great time for a lot of manufacturers. Basically, if you're not BMW, you or Ford, you are in a rough position. Although credit where credit is due, we do have 2 Ferraris starting in the top 7 positions. And then It's Maze is the one Chevrolet who's actually cracked the front 2 rows for today's event. But it does seem like BMW and Ford, for the most part, have this field on lock here at Kylami. So of course the question is going to be, what is tire wear going to look like? What is strategy going to look like? Last night the strategy was very simple, with one exception. Everyone was just going all softs all the way through, but some strangely timed late race yellows put the majority of the field on mediums on the final sprint to the end, which I think also had an impact in shaking up the way the race played out. A lot of drivers on tires that they were not prepared for. But it's going to be a 42-lap race. If you can go 7 laps on softs, it's a nice and easy 5-stop strategy. If you can go 8 laps, it gets a little bit more interesting then, and we'll talk more about tire strategy as the race begins to play out. But we're going to see the pace car pull off, and once again, we want to give a quick shout of thanks to Wiza4 for doing pace car duties. But it's going to be Dex Carino taking the field to the green flag, but keep an eye on Shadow and Railgun, your top 2 in the championship, as we come down to the green flag here at Kylami, and we are underway. The Ford GT on the outside of Les Railgun just did not get the start that he really wanted. It looks like the BMW is not really going to be under threat from the outside here. In fact, it looks like it's going to be a much more orderly start going into turn 1 than what we had back in the Porsche Cup race last night. Everyone looks like they're going to get through turns 1 and 2, and maybe even through turn 3 without any chaos. So we may have a nice clean and green start here at Kylami, and yes, we do. Ferrari's up to 4th and 5th right now on the track. That is Maserati Racer has moved up into the 4th spot in the number 94 Prada machine. But it is Carino who holds the lead just barely over Les Railgun right now, with Indiel Shadow hanging out in 3rd at the moment. That is the Chevy of Maze, who's just gone off big time there. Well, he's not going to lose a position. He's going to lose all the time he had closed in on the top 5 spots now. But as our leaders come up to the top of the mountain, the highest point in the circuit, does not look like... Oh, it looks like Breezy Rain may have gone off again, as now he's just hemorrhaging positions down the grid. Indiel Violet, who started dead last, has already made his way up into 8th position, so he has gained 7 positions in only about half a lap and may not be done, as he is currently tucked up behind Tempered Ship into one of what I would argue is only 2 downforce-focused corners on the circuit. Violet looking to the outside, but that just leaves them open to attack from Diesel. Doesn't matter, though. He has fantastic momentum coming down the second last corner. He'll clear Tempered Ship before they even get to that kink. Indiel Violet has gone from 15th to 7th in just a single lap. Incredible stuff by Violet. It's going to be a little bit of open track for Violet until they catch to It's Maze, but the Ferraris of Maserati and SPV Matthews running 4th and 5th right now, a little bit stronger than what we're usually used to seeing the Ferraris do in this series right now. And then the Ferrari of Violet also making their way up the field, but it is BMW running 1st and 3rd with Les Railgun and the Ford GT trying to make something happen for 2nd. Big slide off the circuit farther back there by Indiel Shadow, and he's going to lose a big chunk of time to our top 2 in the process. So now the question is, what is the strategy going to be between Carino and Les Railgun? Are either of them going to try and make any big moves here? Or are they just going to be content to stay in this formation and hope that one or the other has a good enough tire advantage to let them pull away late in the tire stint? That was something we saw in the Porsche Cup last night. The ability to manage tire wear would have a big impact. The last lap, right before you would come into a pit stop, would have big impacts. If you were not good at managing your tires, you would just absolutely fall off the pace. But at the exact same time, lap times meant so much that you needed to be in a position to capitalize on that to begin with. Even though we had a lot of yellow flags, the drivers who were at the front of the field pretty much stay at the front of the field the entire time, with the exception of one of the F1R drivers who kept being on poor strategies. For the moment, though, no big moves happening up near the front. Indiel Violets made their way up to 7th, but they are having trouble getting away from Tempered Ship right now, and they're not really making any good job closing down on Maze, who runs kind of in solo in 6th, and then the Ferraris of Matthews and Maserati Racer are also just gradually losing time to the top 3. So a clean and green start here, contrasting what had been a lap 1 instant last night in the Porsche Cup. Our top 5 drivers all still within 2 seconds of each other right now, but there is visually a very distinct speed difference between the top 3 and the rest of the grid. And Agent Diesel has already slid back to last position. He has actually gone off circuit there. No damage to the car, but there's a lot of engine damage. It looks like he's done a lot of bad shifting, and Agent Diesel is going to fall to last place on track. Now, with that much engine damage, you would have to consider maybe going ahead and jumping into pit lane to just repair that much engine damage. Yeah, once you get to about 9th on back is this own little glut of cars. Jeff DXD leads this group for the moment, but I wonder how many of these drivers are running harder compound tires. He's at 22.9% wear right now. Look at Dex Carino, your leader at the moment. He is at 24% wear. So no, it does not look like it's a matter of tires. It seems like it's a matter of pace. And it does seem like just about the entire field is likely running the softer tire compound. So there does not seem to be any real talk or any consideration for alternate strategies early on here at Kylami. Les Railgun looking to the outside as they come into the final corner. And pace car is out. So I guess due to Agent Diesel's accident, we have a caution early on here. And Rebirth Quint is going to jump into the pit lane, as will CL in Clinical. So we have our first yellow flag of the night. So even though our first, and Diesel is going to pit as well, obviously to repair the damage, but while we had gotten away the first lap nice, clean, and green, it looks like this race is going to have the same makings of last night's race with an excessive amount of yellow flags here. We're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, we will likely see several more drivers go ahead and jump into pit lane here at Kylami. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. Our leaders haven't really changed, but multiple drivers who are not right at the point of the field have elected to pit. It's Maze jumped into the pits, Tempered Ship jumped into the pits, so did NDL Violet, SPV Matthews pitted, Breezy Rain pitted, TCPP Photo pitted. A lot of drivers pitted, and then they're also going to have the likes of Agent Diesel, CL in Clinical, and Rebirth Quint, who all pitted just the prior lap, just as the yellow flag came out ahead of them. So our faster drivers are going to be out on track, but they are going to be on older, more worn tires here. So strategies are starting to diverge significantly. Interestingly enough, tire wear does not seem to be as much of an issue now as it was last night. We've only hit 31% wear for Dex Carino here on lap 6. So at this rate, Carino might be able to make these tires that he's running go to about lap 11. So unless everyone's on medium tires, I wouldn't imagine everyone's on medium tires, but maybe everyone's running medium tires. Either that or they did not adjust the tire wear properly. But normally the Porsche Cup and the GT3 Cup have roughly similar rates of tire wear. But right now, if everyone is on softs, these tires are not really falling off anywhere close to the rate that they were last night. Last night, we would have been seeing the soft tires already in an absolutely atrocious position, but right now, we could see the soft tires maybe lasting a good 10 laps here tonight. Still, the entire field is gathered up now, so we should be coming to the green flag momentarily here at Kylami. Again, your top 6 all going to be on older tires, and Rebirth Quint, I believe, is the first driver who is on fresher tires. Reminder, Jeff DXD, he's going to be in the Dodge, didn't have a great time of it. He's on old tires as well in the Ford GT. And another one of the Ford GTs, Maserati Racer, the only Ferrari that stayed out on the older tires. Again, I'm really interested to see what Dex Carino is going to do, because his biggest strength last night, while he was not the fastest driver on track in terms of lap times in the Porsche Cup, there were so many restarts, and he was just an absolute master at making the restarts work throughout the day, and that is how he got into the lead and opened up a fantastic lead to the end. All right, looks like the pace car is pulling off now, and we are about to come to the green flag, this time by at Kylami, to start what will be our 6th lap, well, it will say 7th up there, but it will technically be our 6th racing lap because of the pace lap. Single file formation, and we come to the green flag here once again. Does Railgun have anything for Carino? Carino is going to defend the left-hand side of the circuit, try and keep the Ford GT from making a big dive bomb there. Oh, but that's a Ferrari! That's Maserati Racer who ends up hitting the lead BMW, and then he's going to take several other cars off with them. Several of our top drivers all go off after this Maserati Racer misses the corner, and there's a Ford GT into the wall. Was that Railgun? Yes, it is! That's Railgun who's into the wall. No damage. He should be able to continue. What about Clinical in the Dodge Viper? Completely damaged. The car is completely destroyed. But one of your championship contenders, Les Railgun, has been wrecked. He's able to get away without damage, but the same cannot be said for the Dodge of Clinical. Your leader is still Carino, but now it is Jeff DXD in a different Ford GT who has made his way up into 2nd right now, and suddenly the Aston Martin of Agent Diesel is suddenly as high up in the 3rd position. How in the world did this happen? Suddenly, Aston Martin up in the 3rd spot, and is the Chevy of Tempered Ship in 4th. Maze is 5th. Rebirth Quinton 6th. With your other championship contender, Indiel Shadow, try to make it 3 wide to come up to the top of the mountain. He's going to muscle his way by. He's through. Shadow back up into the 6th position, but Violet has actually got just behind them as well. Violet's in that green Ferrari, so the entire field seems to have been completely randomized after Maserati Racer bombed the turn 1 corner. So now the question is going to be, are we going to have another yellow flag for that or not? Pace car has not come out onto the circuit. Maserati Racer ducking into the pits to repair damage. And yeah, it looks like we're going to stay green. So that is going to be counted as a legitimate start by the looks of it. And the action for 3rd on back is heating up. Here comes your leaders, and look at that battle there for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th all on top of each other. And then more contact. That is a Chevy sliding out of control farther back there. As Agent Diesel, who despite just sliding off the circuit again there, is trying to keep the entire field right behind, but Carino and Jeff DXD are scooting off into the distance right now, as Diesel is trying to keep the Chevrolet of Tempered Ship and its Maze right behind. You got Indiel Violet and Indiel Shadow back there. Reminder, Shadow is one of your championship contenders. He wants to get back up to the front as quickly as possible, because while Les Railgun is down there in 13th spot, Shadow wants to move up as far as he can to capitalize on Railgun's bad fortune. Shadow was your points leader coming into the race, makes a little bit of contact with the Chevy of Maze there. A bit of a twitch, but nothing too problematic. I think Shadow may be willing to just let this play out in front of them and then try and make moves once the field's spread out a little bit. Again, Les Railgun is running about 7 seconds behind, completely by himself. There's not really a chance that Railgun's going to catch Shadow anytime soon. Some bad fortune has struck Shadow, but has hit Railgun much, much worse here. Dex Carino has now already opened up a 2-second gap on Jeff DXD. Diesel trying desperately to keep Tempered Ship and Violet behind. Violet in the Ferrari is not going to go side by side through this high-speed kink here. But here comes the Chevy to the inside of the Aston Martin, neck and neck as they go through the final corner, and the Aston just does not have the grip. That thing seems so slidey out of the corners. A little bit of contact there. Tempered Chip is actually going to slip back to 6th, and suddenly Violet's up into the 3rd spot. Violet is taking the last to first count. Seriously, they've already gone from last to 3rd now. Although they have Maze right behind them. Is Maze going to push the issue? It does not look like it. Diesel has slipped out of the top 5 now. Just does not seem to be any grip in any of the Aston Martin entries here at Kylami right now. So even when they get track position, they just do not have any traction to make use of it. But Violet can now focus forward, and they're going to have fresher tires than most of the other cars on track. Diesel continuing to just plummet through the grid now. 30% wear on the tires right now. Not looking great for them. But real quickly, speaking of tire wear, let's look at our leaders. Dex Carino, 52% tire wear right now. He'll probably pit either at the end of this lap or at the end of the next lap. Jeff DXT, similar amount of tire wear as well. Then Indiel Violet, who runs in 3rd position, already pulling away from Maze. They're only at 25% tire wear at the moment. Maze having a relatively strong start early on here. He's only at 24% wear because, again, a lot of these drivers pitted under that last yellow. And then Indiel Shadow, 55%. He did not pit. He tried to gamble on having track position. Well, he's still running top 5 right now, but he is nowhere near Carino or Jeff at the moment. And he is on what may be a suboptimal tire strat right now. So how many of our top 5 elect to pit at the end of this lap? The answer, well, Carino's not going to pit. Jeff is not going to pit. Shadow is not going to pit either. So these drivers are all going to stay out here for one more lap. So it looks like they, with the help of the yellow flag laps, they've been able to stretch the soft tires out to about 10 laps. So I imagine under normal race circumstances, the soft tires can take you about 9 laps, which would infer that the medium tires could probably take you about 13 to 14 laps. So it does seem like the tires have a little bit more life in them in today's GT3 race than what they seem to have in last night's Porsche Cup race. In the Porsche Cup race, it seemed like softs could only go about 8 laps, and then the mediums could go about 12. But yeah, it does seem like there's just a little bit more tire life in the cars today. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how that plays out with the unfolding of strategy as this goes on. Les Railgun has now caught the rear of the grid in 13th position right now, but his rival in the championship, Indiel Shadow, is still up in 5th position, and Railgun also had stayed out on the restart, so he also has cooked off tires right now. So again, while it's not going great for Shadow, it's going absolutely awful for second in the championship, Railgun, at the moment. Although he is going to pull alongside Rebirth Quint and will be able to pass him without issue. Reminder, Quint was one of the other drivers who chose not to pit under the, well, let me check. I want to make sure I'm not talking out my rear here. No, Quint did pit. He's just legitimately that slow in the Dodge. The Dodge just does not have any pace whatsoever in today's event. And we may have just had a lag out here. Nope. All right, it looks like everyone's still on track for the moment. We're anticipating Dex Carino will pit this time by. He is at 62% tire life. So yeah, he is ducking into the pits, and this will give the lead to the Ferrari of Indiel Violet. Last to first in the span of 10 laps. Yes, there were some strategy calls that has let that played out, but Indiel Violet is on something else. The Indiel team as a whole today really trying to go swing for the fences after dominating the HYR Enduro earlier. They are going to try and steal a win here at Kylami for the X League. Matthews moves up into 3rd position, another Ferrari right now. So Ferraris, for the moment, hold 1st and 3rd on track. And It's Maze has the Chevy up in 2nd spot. And while Chevy doesn't have any wins on the season, they have entered so many cars throughout all the races that they are still leading in the team's championship right now, just off of sheer volume. If Maze can bring home a respectable result today, that would go a long way in helping him out. Les Railgun coming out of pit lane now. He is, again, in clean air at least, so that is one thing he'll have over his rivals. But the thing is, Shadow is a long way from catching Jeff DXE, and when he does catch him, I think Jeff will be paying anyway. So I think Railgun and Shadow both are in clean air, but Shadow has such a massive on-track advantage to the tune of about 6 seconds over Railgun right now. It just does not, unless we have some yellow or Shadow makes a complete mess up in strategy calls, I see no way that Railgun's going to be able to recover from the restart shenanigans that he was involved in. Breezy Rain here and Tempered Chip. Here are 2 other Chevys. So it is Ferrari and Chevy dominating the top 5 positions on track. Then you come to 6th place, and it's an Aston Martin. And again, Aston Martin absolutely atrocious in qualifying. None of their cars started up near the grid at all. But right now, yes, strategy has something to do with it. But right now, TCPP Photo leading the Aston Charge up here in 6th spot. And then you have IRT Subaru back there in 7th and Asian Diesel in 8th. So the entire Aston Martin group running in a big group with each other right now. Then in 9th place, you have Rebirth Quint in the Dodge. And 10th is Dex Carino, who is back in clean air, just turning off laps, trying to run fast enough circuits that as this race goes on, he can leapfrog other people on the circuit here. Bit of a spread starting to develop in most of the grid now as our green flag running has continued here. IRT Subaru does have Agent Diesel behind. He may have to worry about pressure from him in a bit. Also, CLN Clinical, after being involved in that restart accident, is running a little bit more than half a lap down right now, so he really needs something to turn around if he wants to not go a lap down in the event. But it looks like Diesel is going to try and muscle his way by Subaru. He feels that he's faster than Subaru, gives him a little bit of a shove in the corner there. It does not look like, though, Rebirth Quint has the stability in his own car to really make anything of this fight. Up the hill to the top of the mountain now. Dive to the inside is Diesel, and Subaru has nothing he can do to fight back. Although Diesel washes wide on the exit, here comes Subaru fighting back. Some teammate-on-teammate action in the Aston Martin camp, but in the end, Subaru will concede the position to Asian Diesel. So Diesel goes up into 7th for a moment, although Subaru looks to the outside in this heavy braking zone, will try the crossover on corner exit. A little bit of contact, and Diesel slides the tires a bit, but he will hold position. While these two have been fighting, TCPP Photo has now opened it up to about 2.5 to 3 seconds over this duo. Yeah, fighting obviously not helping whatsoever with the long-term strategy in this event. Similar scenario in 4th place. It is Breezy Rain in 4th, Tempered Ship runs in 5th right behind him. But these two very obviously do not have anything close to the pace of their teammate Mays in 2nd or the Ferraris ahead of them. But we are watching the strategy weirdness starting to play out after Yellow Flag has put a lot of the drivers farther down the grid on better tires for the moment, and then a lot of the drivers who were faster ended up being involved in a restart incident that has shuffled them all over the place. I do think, though, that Carino is in the best position out of them all right now, running in 10th place, 18.9 seconds off of the leader right now. But NDL Violet trying to make the first challenge happen today. Coming up to the top of the mountain once again. It looks like Diesel and Subaru are not done with their little spat here. No big moves that time, though. Real quickly, let's look at our leaders, see. Well, it looks like the lead Ferrari is pitting, so Violet says, I've had enough. He ducks into the pits. He's almost out of fuel as well, but he made it to lap 13 on new tires. It's Mays is now going to inherit the lead. He's already at 57% tire wear, but he has gone a little bit farther. He is going farther than everyone else of the drivers who are up near the front and did pit under the last yellow. So they've gone about 10 laps on tires. About 9 to 10 laps, somewhere in there. So again, the tires seem to have a little bit more longevity compared to what we had in the Porsche Cup event last night. So TCPP Photo now up into 2nd. Dex Carino is now going to be up into 4th, but he has caught Rebirth Quint, and Quint did not pit this time by, so Carino is going to have to deal with a little bit of fighting. Interesting thing to consider, though, Violet is only about 6 seconds behind Carino at the moment. So on alternate strategies, it is Ferrari versus BMW in the two different strategies that are fighting each other on the grid right now. And mind you, Carino, he pitted several laps ago. He's only at 24% tire wear right now, so he can stay out for quite some time. He finally gets to the inside of the Dodge of Rebirth Quint, and Carino is going to crack his way back into the top 3 now. Bad news for NDL Shadow. He has ended up in 7th, just barely ahead of Matthews. And Matthews, once he gets his tires warmed up, will have fresher rubber and might be able to put some pressure on Shadow. Again, Shadow is still way off from Carino right now at the gap of 7 seconds in Carino's favor at the moment. But again, Shadow's bigger concern is Les Railgun, and he still has about 5.5 seconds over his championship rival, Les Railgun, at the moment. It's Mays pitting now. He went 1 lap farther on his tires. What of TCPP Photo in the Aston Martin? Is he going to stay out another lap? No, he has to pit as well. His tires are at 63%, and he doesn't have the fuel to go much longer either, so this will give the lead of the race back to Dex Carino here. And Rebirth Quint will likely pit out of the 4th spot as well, I imagine. No, he chose not to. Rebirth Quint staying out for another lap. Rebirth Quint may actually have medium tires on, trying to make a wildly alternate strategy work on his own in that Dodge. So he now goes up into 2nd place on track. And Indiel Violet retakes 3rd, and he is 6.5 seconds off of the lead of Dex Carino right now. Has a tire advantage and is now running in clean air. Maze and Shadow having a little bit of a spat as they go into turn number 1. So Shadow having to deal with some fighting here. Not ideal for him. Chevy looking a little bit strong early on here, but as the race goes on, we'll get an idea as to how much of the Chevy's performance is actually legitimate and how much of it was just off the back of strategy and restart weirdness. Right now, Shadow is just peeling away from May, so it looks like it may have just been down to Shadow and restart strategy and restart weirdness at the moment. That is Jeff DXD in the Ford GT running just ahead of Shadow. He is on the same strategy as Shadow, but I don't know if Jeff has the outright pace to do anything, and then just ahead of them is Indiel Violet, who is leading on this strategy right now. Rebirth Quint may be the interesting cork in the bottle here, because if he is running a harder tire compound, he may be caught by Violet and held Violet up, and that may leave Violet under threat from Jeff or Shadow as this continues. Shadow seems to be on a bit of a recovery drive right now. Looking at Violet's tires, they're only at 14% wear right now. Just for comparison, Shadow, who is back here in 5th on an alternate strategy, though, 37% wear. So Shadow will have to pit sooner rather than later, but Shadow has been slowly closing the gap down between themselves and Violet on the circuit right now. Your leader is still Dex Carino. Bit of a slide there in turn 3 by Jeff, and that's going to back up Shadow quite a bit. Shadow now being actively held up by this Ford GT. So now he says, I've had enough. He looks to the inside, makes it side by side with the Ford GT. Can't complete the pass there. Now he's on the outside going into this corner. He'll let the 55 slide wide, put the bumper to him, causes the 55 to slide again. Now the BMW's really held up, and now he's under pressure from Maze all over again. Shadow, very good at lap time, very good at setting up tunes, but he is not often in a position where he has to fight and make overtakes on track, mano-y-mano, and that inexperience in mano-y-mano fighting is showing as he goes for a big dive bomb on Jeff, and Jeff gets the door into him, and Shadow has a big slide in the process, and they make door contact 2 more times as they're heading down the mountain here. A little bit more contact as they come to the bottom of the hill. The Ford GT drops tires in the dirt. He's still there. The fight's still not over. As they come out of the corner, there we are. Jeff still ahead of Shadow. Rebirth Quint ducking out of 2nd place now. So this will now turn into a fight for 3rd on track. The BMW goes for a gigantic Herculean dive in the final corner, and look at that, Jeff does the crossover on exit. Now it's a drag race down the straight, and they have a Chevrolet right there on top of them, but the BMW just is such a better setup car than everything else, it seems. Shadow gets back into the lead with no issue. Here comes a dive bomb by Jeff into turn number 1, and in the process, he washes a little wide, forces them wide. Here comes the Chevy of Maze. Maze gets into Jeff. And that is what finally let Shadow by. It's not that Shadow could completely overtake himself. It had to come down to the other 2 drivers getting into it. And that's the Ferrari of Matthews sliding into the dirt behind them. But now Shadow has broken away. He'll finally be in clean air and can just burn clean laps to get away from everybody else on track. It doesn't matter how bad you are at fighting other cars if the other cars spend too much time fighting each other, and you can just capitalize off of that. As Jeff now tries to stay ahead of its Maze. But your leader is Dex Carino by 7 seconds over NDL Violet. But Carino is going to have to pit sooner rather than later, as we have two different kinds of strategies trying to play out right now. Carino leads strategy A, which was don't pit under the first safety car. Violet leads strategy B, which was to pit under the first safety car. Thus far, 17 laps in, well, technically 16 because we had the pace lap, we've only had one yellow flag thus far in the event. That was your leader going by. And then here goes Violet as he shoots by. And then here is Shadow and then Jeff in this fight from 4th, 5th, and 6th. Then 7th is Les Railgun, who is in clean air, able to turn nice clean laps in air. And you got Breezy Rain, Tempered Ship, TCPP Photo there. Then it's a big gap back to Agent Diesel and Subaru. These two Astons have spent so much time fighting each other, they just continue to hemorrhage time. They're followed then by Rebirth Quint, who just recently pitted. And then you'll have Maserati Racer, who is the last of those drivers there. CNL and Clinical is also running on track, but he is about 58 seconds off of the lead right now. Jeff, Maze, and Matthews are not done. Matthews, despite sliding off into the dirt earlier, has actually made his way up into the 4th position in the Ferrari. So while they didn't have the greatest pace in qualifying in race, they are showing some decent racecraft right now, moving their way forward. That Ford GT is not done with the Ferrari yet. Gaining the position is one thing, making it stick is a whole nother thing. Here comes a move there by Maze on Jeff. Up the inside as it comes to the top of the mountain. But the Ford GT has the outside line, has more track basically in order to get traction down and can use the superior traction to get back ahead of the Chevrolet. Dex Carino now jumping out of the top spot into the pits. The lights have come on the circuit, so the lead is now going to head over back to NDL Violet. NDL Shadow is going to pit. Matthews is going to pit as well. But these two continue to fight for what will now be second position. So Violet goes in the lead, and this battle between Maze and Jeff will now become the fight for second place on track at the moment. Dead heat. Ford versus Chevrolet down the straight. The Chevy on the inside should have the advantage as long as he doesn't botch the braking zone. And yes, he will hold on to the station for the moment. Just behind them is Les Railgun, still on the recovery drive. He's actually staying out a lap longer right now, just trying to get onto some kind of alternate strat, even just slightly alternate, to find some other advantage to try and close back down on Carino. And will it work? Because Carino, as they have completed their pit stop, they are in the middle of traffic. They've got TCPP Photo behind them and Tempered Ship ahead of them. So Carino may be dealing with some traffic here. Thing is, though, the same can be said for Railgun, because he's about to catch the duo of Maze and Jeff here. Maze has now fallen 7 seconds off from NDL Violet, but he has completed the overtake on Jeff and seems to be able to hold it for the moment. Clinical also went ahead and has made their stop as well now. As we are under this nice long green flag run, had a yellow flag back on lap 4, which have split the field into two different kinds of strategy camps. But we have been green since then, so we're just watching these strategies play out on circuit. And as our leader is coming to the line, we're not quite halfway through the race, but let's go ahead and look at the penalties earned thus far. This may be where the race is really decided. Violet at the lead has 1.7 seconds of penalties. Go to the points of interest camera. As you'll see, Violet coming down, he has 1.7 seconds of penalties thus far. Maze and Jeff pitted third just now. Maze and Jeff had no penalties. Railgun 1.5 seconds worth. Tempered Ship 1.3 seconds. Dex Carino 1.9 seconds. Photo and Diesel no penalties yet. NDL Shadow 3.4 seconds. It's not looking good for them. Subaru no penalties. Matthews 1.9 seconds of penalties. Rebirth Quint has no penalties. Maserati Racer already up to 6 seconds of penalties. And Clinical has 0.8 seconds of penalties at this this stage of the event. It looks fantastic seeing these drivers fly into turn 1 here at full speed like that. Oh, that's so good. Well, Carino has gotten by Tempered Ship. When it comes to the two different strategies, the leaders on them are Carino and Violet, and Carino has a very slight disadvantage when it comes to penalties as well. So as these strats continue to play out, we'll want to keep an eye on that. And then again, the fight for the championship right now, Shadow, over 3 seconds, closer to 3.5 seconds of penalties in 8th, and then Railgun back there in 13th has less than half of that. Another thing also is that last night, most of the field had penalties. Right now, that does not look like it's going to be the case. Right now, while several drivers have penalties, the penalties have been kept relatively low, and there are plenty of drivers with no penalties. So I really feel that if there's any talk about removing penalties from last night's race, it might want to be reconsidered, because right now the GT3 drivers are showing that, no, you can run clean on the circuit. Violet has gone ahead and made their stop, so the lead now goes over to Maze. So in the Chevrolet, Maze leads, and Breezy Rain in the next Chevrolet is second. Dex Carino is now back into the podium positions in third, and then Tempered Ship and another Chevrolet is running in fourth now. And then you get the Aston Martin of TCPP Photo in fifth. After completing their pit stop, NDL Violet is now sixth. And now just 16 seconds out of the lead, but it's more important to consider what Violet's gap to Carino is, and that is currently about 9 seconds. Going to be interesting to try and figure out where the strategies actually all end up playing out as it comes down here. Jeff DXD and Rebirth Quint having a little bit of a spat here, along with a bunch of other drivers like Railgun and Maserati Racer. Nearly 3 wide into the corner. This is not going great for Railgun. Now that he's caught the field, he just can't seem to stop fighting with them. So he's still 6 seconds out from Shadow, but is not really making any forward headway whatsoever. So Maze is your leader now in the Chevrolet. We are going to go ahead and ride on board with Maze as Breezy Rain, his teammate, pits out second. But we're going to ride on board with Maze for a flying lap here as we'll take a Twitch-mandated ad break. We'll be back shortly here at Kylami. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here at Kylami. Your leader, Maze, pitted while we were riding on board with him, so that transfers the lead of the race back over to Dex Carino once again. In the fight between Carino and Violet, leading on 2 different strategies, as this race is going on, personally, I feel that it might be Carino who has the advantage overall. Carino seems to be a lot more stable with their car, but I think they may be a little bit more limited on what strategies they have available. Again, we don't really know what it's going to turn into as this race continues. We don't know if drivers are going to go ahead and go burning soft tires all the way through, if someone's going to jump onto the mediums to try and cut out a pit stop late, especially if this race goes clean and green to the checkers here. Again, last night's race, we had 4 different yellow flags all throughout the event, 2 of them relatively late, that put everyone on mediums on the run to the end, but we are on a nice long green flag run now. If this holds out to the end, who knows what the end strategy might end up being. Farther back, Les Railgun and Jeff DXD, teammates, have found each other in the Ford GT camp. Railgun still is running about 7 seconds off from NDL Shadow, and Shadow likewise is still running about 13 seconds off from Dex Carino. So those were the 3 drivers who qualified at the top of the grid: Carino, Shadow, and Railgun. And now the gap between them all is so much bigger after the restart mess that involved Railgun and Shadow. Shadow pushed very wide, way off the line, and fell through the grid. Railgun pushed off circuit, involved an accident with Clinical, but Clinical took damage. Railgun did not, and Railgun's just trying to manually make his way up the grid. TCPP Photo in the Aston Martin now pits out 2nd spot, so this will put Violet back up into 2nd on track now. And we look at Dex Carino. What are their tires looking like right now? 36%, but they only have 11% left in the fuel tank. So I'd say about 4 more laps or so, maybe 5. If the medium tires can go, well, let's see here. Last night, the medium tires could go about 12 laps, 13 laps if you were really willing to push it. And the yellow flags late helped them with making that happen. But the tires seem to have a little bit more life to them now. So if you can make the medium tires last 13 laps, if you're a Dex Carino or Violet, do you consider pitting on lap 31, throwing on the mediums, and just not paying again to the end of the race? Obviously, that would leave you very exposed if we have a yellow flag. But conversely, you cut out an entire pit stop on the run to the end here. And both Violet and Carino are in a position where they're not really being harassed on track. Violet, though, has just slid off circuit something big and has lost at least a second, if not more. That's something else that will work out in Carino's favor here. And then here's Shadow in the other BMW. He's got, well, the game showed engine damage and took it away. Don't know what's going on there, but he's at 42% tire wear right now, compared to Carino, your leader, who is at 41%. So Shadow does seem to be grinding up his tires just a little bit faster than Carino is here. Do you consider trying to cut out a pit stop to throw on mediums? Matthews has just gotten by Mays, apparently. So Ferraris are still showing quite a bit of competency right now. As this race is going on, though, it seems like the Chevys are gradually falling backwards through the field. But Mays is doing his best. He's putting up as much of a fight as he can to try and keep not just himself, but his team as a whole in a decent position. If I remember correctly, championship-wise, Mays is in the championship fight as well. But with NDL Shadow running ahead of him, it's not like he's in a position to really capitalize on anything. Yeah, Mays is 4th in points, 147 out from Shadow, but with Shadow ahead of him on track right now, I think realistically, with 4 races left after this, unless Shadow misses a race or has some sort of catastrophic accident, I think Mays is falling out of championship contention. The other driver still in championship contention, technically, is Breezy Rain, but not only is Breezy Rain behind Shadow, he's behind Railgun as well. So, yeah, not only is Shadow going to open up his lead in the championship over Railgun, I think Shadow is rebounding well enough. There is a very high likelihood we could end up seeing Shadow take the championship down to just being a 2-man battle. Again, there is a 16-point advantage in Shadow's favor coming into today's race, and while Shadow has been struck with a little bit of misfortune, Railgun's misfortune has been much worse. And while Railgun has been on the slow recovery drive, he is not catching Shadow. He needs to be ahead of Shadow in order to start seriously closing down the title fight. And that's just not what we've been seeing happening. And Violet, likewise, has just been in a different story, but Violet has just been kind of falling off pace altogether now in this stint. So as the track has cooled off and we've gone from day to night, seems like the handling is going away on that Ferrari, and he is now hemorrhaging time to Dex Carino. So yeah, I think even if Dex Carino is on the suboptimal tire strategy, I think he may just have the sheer speed necessary to still win it, just off of sheer pace right now. Looking at the tires, he's at 52% with only 4% left in the tank, so he'll have to pit this time by. With 17 laps to go. I mean, 17 laps to go, that's a pair of soft tire stints right there. That's really easy. For Violet, it might be a little bit more considerable to throw on a set of mediums late. Who knows? They're at 43% tire life right now, though, so they're probably only going to be able to stay out for another 2 or 3 laps. Again, when your rear tires are falling off, that is the worst feeling ever. The Ferraris can be very fast, but they always have problems with the rears burning off on them. And you can negate that by cranking up the rear downforce, but in the process, you completely negate the Ferrari's ability to handle and kill its lap time. But handling in general just becomes absolutely awful whenever your rear tires are burning up faster than your fronts. When your front tires are burning up faster than your rears, all that means is you just have to back off and ease off a bit more going into and out of corners. You just back up the corner entry more. When it's the rears burning off, that affects every single aspect of the car and every single corner everywhere around the circuit. Because the rears will just want to constantly slide or lock up or everything. And that's just very, very suboptimal. So Dex Carino jumping into the pits this time, as does NDL Shadow. So I think Matthews is going to stay out, though. And this might be enough to, although however briefly it will be, I think that will be enough to make it a Ferrari 1-2 on track. Because Matthews will pass Carino, as Carino's just now coming out of pit lane. But look at that, it's Mays right there pulling up alongside. Mays is not done trying to have some fights here. And Les Railgun is still here in the middle of this fight as well. Right on board with Railgun. He is stuck behind the battling duo of Mays and Matthews. And Railgun has Carino behind. Well, if Carino's going to make it to just one more stop, going soft, Railgun, who is paying a lap later, will be able to do that even better with a little bit of a tire advantage, but he is burning up lap time right now. Railgun can see Carino right behind him, so that's not going to help him whatsoever. Here comes Railgun, looks to the outside of Matthews. Not a very optimal place to try and make an overtake stick, but he's going for it. And he will make it stick. Railgun now moves up into third on track. Mays is only about 0.7 of a second ahead of him right now. Dex Carino is about to catch Matthews now, so he's going to have to start dealing with traffic all over again. Shadow, after pitting, is now back here dealing with TCPP Photo and Rebirth Quint having their own little spat just ahead of him as well. So our fastest drivers constantly having to deal with, what in the devil happened to Rebirth Quint there? He went off! Cameras missed it, but Rebirth Quint just completely went off circuit at the top of the mountain. Well, I'll make things a little bit easier for him. Matthews now pits out of the top 5 positions. Mays in second, keeping Railgun behind for the moment. He's only at 37% tire wear right now. Violet, your leader in the Ferrari. He's at 56% tire wear. I imagine just because of the tire fall off, Violet will have to pit at the end of this lap. That's 15 laps to the end. Those numbers are not looking viable to run medium tires to the end. He'd have to stay out at least 2 more laps, I'd imagine. Violet might be able to stay out for 1 lap longer if he really feels the need to. I wouldn't, but he might if he wants to. But, like, I feel like he has to pit. He may just have to commit to the soft tires. Now, granted, he can spend a little bit less time on the soft tires, not burn them up as much, but I do feel that Violet's the first challenge, is going to be derailed by the fact that Carino overall still has the superior pit stop strategy right now, even though Carino has now caught Railgun and is now being held up by that Ford GT here. Comes to the inside of Railgun, side by side. Reminder, Carino hasn't started enough races in the GT3 Cup to really be in championship contention at all, as Mays is trying to get by some traffic there. And there we are. Yep, Violet will pit this time by, unsurprisingly. And I imagine Railgun will surely be pitting this time as well. Yeah, it'll be 15 laps to go. That's a 7-lap stint on tires, and that's an 8-lap stint on tires. No, Railgun stays out a little bit longer. Even though he's at 64% tire wear, maybe Railgun's going to try the medium tire strategy. He's setting up to pit with 14 laps to go. So he must have a lot of confidence in how well the mediums will take him to the end, I imagine. Well, Railgun had to do something to try and put himself back in serious championship contention. Right now, he has a decent amount of track position advantage over NDL Shadow, who is buried back here in 8th right now, being harassed by TCPP Photo, who forces Shadow offline and is going to muscle his way alongside. But then in turn 2, Shadow will have the ideal line back and will maintain position. So no, I guess Railgun really committing to an alternate strategy, trying to do anything it can to put himself back into a position where he can finish ahead of Shadow as this race continues here. Same thing likely is the case for Maze, who is leading right now. He's at not quite 50% in the tire life, so Maze could definitely go ahead. Doesn't have to pit this time. He could pit next lap by, and he could definitely throw on the mediums and make the mediums last to the end with no more stops. And then you have Carino right there behind. Carino also has one more stop he's going to have to make as well. But Carino is quite obviously faster than Maze on circuit. And we look at the penalties. Now a lot more drivers have earned penalties. But again, the amount of penalties being earned right now is relatively low outside of a handful of high earners. Maserati, 8 seconds. NDL Shadow, 4 seconds. Violet, 3.8 seconds. Carino, not yet at 3 seconds. But everyone else is doing a good job managing their time penalties thus far. Railgun and Jeff both pit with 14 laps to go. So I imagine they are going to throw on medium tires and try to limp it home to the end. For Maze, though, not only does he have a track position advantage over them, he's going to have, if he pits for mediums, he's going to have a 1-lap tire advantage over them as well. And for Maze, that could be good. That could be what he needs to close his gap in the championship down just a little bit, try to keep himself at least on the edge of the championship fight. I don't think the win is in the cards for him because Dex Carino is so much faster and doesn't have to worry about running a harder tire compound to the end here. Here comes Carino looking to the inside of Maze as they come up to the top of the mountain this time. How aggressively does the Chevy defend? He tried to pinch him down, but you can see very obviously the grip is no longer there in the Chevy. So Carino makes a legitimate on-track overtake. Granted, it was off the back of tire life advantage, but Carino makes an on-track overtake to go back to the lead with about 14 laps to go. It'll be 13 to go when they come to the line. Again, Maze should easily be able to pit, throw on the medium tires, and run the mediums to the end, and that is going to be what we see him do this time by. Carino is going to stay out, though. So while Carino definitely has the win in the bag, barring a late race yellow causing catastrophe for him, the question for who's going to get second is really up in the air. Tempered Chip's going to pit along with Breezy Rain, so I imagine Maze, Rain, and Chip all are committing to throwing on medium tires and hoping that the race will come back to them as drivers around them pit. So this is NDL Shadow, who had just pitted the prior lap. No, he's not Shadow. It was Railgun who had pitted the prior lap. This is Shadow, who still has yet to make his next pit stop. But he has actually gotten ahead of NDL Violet at this stage of the race. Violet has a lot of fuel and low tire wear. Has Violet also committed to the medium tire? I can't see any world where Violet could make the mediums last to the end, though. Violet may have shot a hole in their entire race pace by committing to mediums, because there's no way the mediums would last to the end for them. It would have been better served going soft, but I don't know. Maybe they got desperate. Have a shame because Violet legitimately was doing a last to first challenge, but now it seems like that's all fading away. Also, the handling visibly going away on that car, having troubles just keeping it on the racing line now. And his TCPP photo in the Aston Martin, who is suddenly back in third position, but he's likely going to be painted at the end of this lap due to tire wear. And boy, he could definitely make it on mediums. He would have no fall off on the medium tires whatsoever here. But Carino and Shadow both have yet to pit again. And when they pit again, we're imagining they'll throw on softs, which seems to be able to last about 9 to 10 laps today, which is about a lap or two more than what they could do last night in the Porsche race. Big thing as well is that Indiel Shadow may be running second place on track right now, but he is still 17 seconds off from Carino. Has not been doing as good managing his tires. And when he pits, he's going to end up behind a lot more drivers as well. Most notably, he'll likely end up behind Les Railgun, who we believe has thrown on mediums to go to the checkered flag here. So Shadow may have done basically nothing wrong, but might get snookered by just being on, while the winning strategy. He just doesn't, he's not far enough up the road to really convert that into a good result. Either that, or Shadow may have to legitimately fight on track. And we saw earlier, Shadow, he's very good at setting lap times, very good at setting up and tuning cars. His ability to fight other drivers on the track is a little bit lacking. He normally relies on just sheer pure pace to just destroy his competition. But if Shadow ends up pitting and ends up behind the likes of Railgun, Matthews, Mays, Violet, it might end up hurting him a lot. But I think it's just going to come down to how far behind does he end up when he does make his stop, though. Because that's the other thing. If he pits, ends up in a lot of clean air, and then runs down the likes of Railgun and Matthews in clean air, he might not have a problem because, yeah, his soft tires would be more worn out, but he would be in a rhythm and could nip them in the last few seconds. And again, time penalties may have something to play into the final run of this race as well. Flopping over to Dex Carino, we are going to ride on board with our leader in the BMW for a flying lap around Kylami at night. We'll be back momentarily here at Kylami. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. 10 laps left. Drivers who pit now may be in a position where they could throw on soft tires to the end of the race, but track position is still going to be a big thing. Les Railgun runs 32 seconds off the lead, but compared to his championship rival Shadow, he's only 16 seconds off of him, and Shadow, we know, still has to pit again for tires. How far down the order is Shadow going to fall, and will he be able to make ground up? The Shadow has shown weakness in fighting other cars on track today, and that might be all it takes to put the likes of Mays and Railgun in a position where they can start putting their championship hopes back into, I don't want to say realistic, but back into serious scenarios, Railgun is a legitimate title contender. Maze is hanging on the periphery of the championship fight as well. But reminder, Railgun is a little bit more iffy on making their tires last to the end. They are trying to make medium tires last about 14 laps, if I remember correctly. Maze is trying to go 13 laps, so we know Maze will not have a problem with tires. Railgun's going to be a little bit more iffy, though. Shadow has now fallen 17 seconds off of Carino. So yeah, he has absolutely pushed those tires. And he's almost out of fuel as well. That's not going to help him either. So I imagine we're going to see both of our leading BMWs pitting at the end of this lap. Should be a relatively short stop for both of them. Just put in the bare minimum tires. And no, Carino is going to stay out another lap. So he does not want to push the soft tires 10 laps. He says, nah, I only want to have to push it 9. Shadow, though, doesn't have a choice. He's almost out of fuel, so he's going to have to push these tires 10 laps. Again, that does seem like it is in the realm of possibility for him. All right, so now we turn our focus on Les Railgun. Is Railgun going to end up ahead of NDL Shadow? And if he is, how far ahead of Shadow is he going to be? This is going to be one of those fights that could have an impact in the Drivers' Championship. Shadow still in pit lane right now, has not started moving down. Now he has come out of his box and is starting to accelerate down. Here comes Les Railgun, passes him on track, and starts opening the gap. Thing is, Les Railgun is not catching the drivers ahead of Violet or Maze right now. Thing with Violet is I don't know what kind of strategy Violet's on, but I don't think it's a winning strategy. I don't think they have the tire life to go to the end of this race, and they are being harassed by Maze right now for this position. Then you have Matthews, who has filtered his Ferrari up into second position right now as well. So the Ferrari is having a strong showing, but strategy kind of all over the place. Feels kind of like a Scuderia Ferrari event, which frustrates me to say that and admit that. But that does seem like what it looks like at the moment. So NDL Shadow has ended up 6 seconds behind Les Railgun with about 9 laps left in the event. Both Railgun and Shadow, though, are going to be pushing their tires a little bit farther than ideal. Shadow's going to have a lap time advantage, but he's going to have some tire fall off on the last lap, and so will Les Railgun. Oh, and Shadow's off! And Shadow's off into the dirt! Your championship leader! Big time slide off into the dirt there. And that's going to massively open the gap between himself and Railgun now. In fact, now Jeff DXD closes in on Shadow, so Shadow may have to deal with a different Ford GT for a bit, but that swings the advantage in Railgun's favor. Now the gap opens up to about 8.5 seconds in Railgun's favor now. With 9 laps left, basically Shadow has to run down a second per lap to catch Railgun. Matthews has made his pit. We know almost for a fact that he'll end up in the lead, though. Here's the fight for what was about to become second on track, though, between Violet and Maze. Side by side, Ferrari versus Chevrolet as they go down. Matthews falling down the grid. He ends up behind Railgun. Is he going to still be ahead of Shadow, though? Chevy on the inside, Ferrari on the outside in this battle for what is currently second on track, and Maze does get Violet. And yeah, Matthews is going to be way behind Shadow, not anywhere close to him. So Matthews is not going to have an impact in the fight between Railgun and Shadow. Gap between Railgun and Shadow right now is 8 seconds in Railgun's favor. It's only one position, though. It wouldn't be a massive close in the championship for Railgun, but he needs everything he can get because the season, we're only going to have 4 more races after this. Railgun needs everything he can to close down the championship gap on Shadow. And in the Manufacturers Championship, while Chevy is not on track to win by any means, Maze is really putting the team on his back. He has been the only Chevy to really be able to put the team on his back. He is maintaining a really strong running right now and could very easily pull out a podium result today. Most of the other fights on track have pretty much dissolved at this stage of the race now. Maze runs 10 seconds off from Carino. Carino, though, will be clear to the end. Does not have to worry about pitting again to the end of this race. Maze shouldn't have to worry about that either. Neither should Violet. Well, Violet's going to be a little bit more iffy. We don't know if Violet will be able to make it to the end. I don't imagine they'll be able to. Then you have Les Railgun, who is now starting to close in on this duo. And then you have NDL Shadow, who is back here in 5th spot. But 2 of his 3 title rivals, Maze and Railgun, are on track to finish better than him. In Maze's case, much better than him. And then Breezy Rain, who is also in the title fight, while it looks like it will be a respectable run in 7th, it does not seem like Breezy is going to be able to keep themselves in championship contention. Mathematically, they'll still be there, but realistically, I think a run like this is going to take them out of any serious title fight. I think it's still going to be Railgun versus Shadow, with Maze on the extreme outside, but Maze putting on a show like he is now is the kind of thing that keeps Maze on the periphery of the title fight, keeps him on the edge. Yeah, Violet now starting to slide backward into the grips of Les Railgun. What Railgun wants to see is Railgun wants to get by Violet, but Violet to regain a little bit of pace so he still stays ahead of Railgun to try and maximize the amount of point loss that Shadow is going to have. So yeah, Railgun wants to get by Violet and then see Violet be able to hold Shadow up to the end. That is the big goal there. But again, I look at these 3, Violet, Railgun, Shadow. I don't know how confident I'd be in any of their tires. Violet, I feel, is in a very, very frustrating position tire life-wise. Railgun and Shadow are also not in a great position when it comes to their tire life. And while Shadow is closing on Railgun, it's not by a rapid margin, even with Railgun being held up by Violet. Violet is putting on one heck of a defense right now, though. Here comes a move to the inside by the Ford GT. Ferrari holding on to the outside here. Just about side by side, just about neck and neck. Is that the move for Railgun? Violet's not giving up yet, but he's going to be on the outside. Going into turn 3. Big slide by the Ferrari. And they're still sliding. Finally gets it back on the way, but yeah, that puts Railgun into the podium positions. Quint, Maserati, and Diesel all have to pit with about 5 laps left, as does Subaru. So a bunch of drivers near the rear of the grid all jumping into the pit lane late. We're not under the yellow flag, are we? No, we are not. Okay, so those drivers just all massively mistimed their stuff. Maze is starting to, or at least trying to walk off into the distance with a 2nd place result. He's got Les Railgun in 3rd, though. Railgun would love to overtake Maze and try to keep Maze as far away from the focus of the championship fight as possible here. But Maze, not only does he have the Drivers' Championship to consider, Chevrolet is still leading in the Teams' Championship, and a good result here would help Chevrolet maintain that slim gap they have in the Teams' Championship as well. Look at the tire life, Railgun, 42% tires right now. Look at Maze, though, who is 2nd. He is at 38%. So yeah, it's very obvious that Maze has the tire advantage. He has a track position advantage. Who has the penalty advantage, though? It's, again, Maze. He doesn't even have a full 2nd of penalties yet. Railgun has a 2.5 seconds. And that's the other thing to consider. Railgun, 1.5 seconds of penalties. Shadow, 7.3 seconds of penalties. There is a possibility that Shadow might even get clipped by Jeff DXC, depending on how the rest of Shadow's race goes here. So your championship leader not having a great time and may lose serious, well, not a lot of ground, but may lose noteworthy ground to 2 of his rivals in the points fight, depending on how the rest of this race goes. Well, one thing's for sure, Dex Carino, barring something catastrophic happen, is going to go ahead and sweep the weekend. Won the race last night here at Kylami. On track to win it tonight as well. Sweeping the Porsche Cup and the GT3 Pro race in the same weekend is quite a feat. And everyone who may have thought, oh, Carino only got, I will count myself in the list. People who was like, oh, Carino only got the win last night off the back of restarts. He didn't actually have the pace to win. Carino was on what I thought was a suboptimal strategy, and still he is on pace to absolutely win this. Okay, Violet has just about been caught by Shadow now. Violet is at 41% tire life right now. Shadow just behind is at 37%. So yeah, the Violets just kind of put themselves into an awful box with their tire strat. I don't see any way that Violet can keep Shadow behind, and that's the thing. Shadow is continuing to slowly move his way through the field, trying to minimize the amount of time he's going to lose by being behind Maze and Railgun on this run to the end here. 4 laps to go right now. Still a lot of stuff could happen. We still aren't 100% sure what Shadow is going to be able to do on tires to the end. Same thing with Railgun, who is also harassing Maze for a second. We know that Maze has a tire life advantage and a penalty advantage, but Railgun has a pace advantage. A little bit of door-to-door contact, Ford versus Chevy for second here. Maze is not done with him yet, though. He'll have to back out through this corner, I'd imagine. Nope, no backing out. They're still door-to-door. Now they come up the mountain. Surely this is where Railgun gets it, right? Heavy under the brakes. Railgun's a little bit wide, but that works well for him. It gives him more room to put the power down in the Ford. Yep, Railgun goes into second. Again, we look at the penalties between them. Railgun does have to be ahead of Maze. If they're just finishing nose to tail like this, I think Maze would still clip Railgun for the spot. Violet's now falling behind Shadow, and Violet now with over 6 seconds of penalties. I think this realistically takes Violet out of the fight for fourth. Coming to the line will be 3 laps to go. Well, technically it is 3 laps to go right now because Carino's already past the start-finish line. For these two, they now have 3 more laps left. Again, Maze has a tire advantage over Railgun. And sliding wide like that is not going to help the Ford GT. Here comes the Chevy back into play. But don't look now. Here comes their championship rival, NDL Shadow. And while Shadow right now has a bit of a tire advantage over them. Now he's burning it up, but he's got a tire advantage and a pace advantage. Your championship leader is trying to snatch some relief from the jaws of defeat here. I don't know if Maze and Railgun realize their title rival is this close to them right now. They are really going at it for second. But Maze has gotten his way back by Railgun now. And Shadow, I think, may be in a position. Oh, and that's the Chevy off! That might be a penalty later, though. That might come down to a penalty later. That may be looked at as a penalty later. But if that doesn't become a penalty, that move is going to take Maze out of serious championship contention. And now Railgun just has to worry about Shadow. That was an awful strategic call by Railgun, though. He needed to get by Maze cautiously so Maze could run as interference to Shadow to the end. But now, with Maze completely having fallen behind them both, Maze is not going to be interfering for Shadow, and Shadow can immediately put the pressure on Railgun to the checkers here. As these two come to the line, it's 2 laps to go. That was an awful strategic blunder. Well, not really a strategic, that was an awful tactical blunder by Railgun. And now Shadow has caught his draft. Has Railgun just put his chances at the championship in an even worse position now? Maze is still hanging out about 2.6 seconds behind. And he does have some tire life advantage. But these two spend a lot of time fighting. Maze might still be back into it. And Shadow slides! Oh, does Shadow ever slide there in turn 3? And Railgun has a slide as well. Maze slides also, but not nearly as much. Suddenly the gap opens back up in Railgun's favor. Looking at Shadow, looking at his tires. He's at 55% tires, and those are soft tires, so wear is only going to continue to accelerate. Railgun is at 59, about to hit 60% in the rears. He has to finish this lap and one more afterwards. And looking at that fuel, 6%, will Railgun have the fuel to go to the end? I mean, I hope so, but now I'm starting to be a little bit wondering a little bit about that. Shadow, though, is still taking advantage of the softer tires. Seems like the dead softs are a little bit better than dead mediums, and Shadow has just about caught Railgun once more. Again, time penalty-wise, I think Railgun will still have it, but if time penalties end up being decided to get removed in part or in full post-race, Railgun still wants to be as far ahead of Shadow as possible. Another big slide by that BMW there. Carino now nearly 22 seconds into the lead right now. Final corner. Here comes the dive bomb. Shadow to the inside. Railgun has no recourse. Railgun could not put up any fight whatsoever. So Shadow goes into second spot with 1 lap left. He's got to outrun as much of this distance penalty as he can, though. But look at his tires. 60% tire life right now. That car is going to be handling awful to the end. But Railgun's not going to be exactly any better. Railgun threw on a gamble, and I think it was a good gamble, but tactical blunders. He got way too aggressive, fighting with Maze, pushed Maze off the track, and in the process, Maze ended up not being a factor holding up Shadow. I think on penalty countback, I think Railgun will still get second here. Also credit to Matthews. Looks like he is going to be the highest finishing Ferrari in the end here in 5th. Looking at the penalty counts, well, it might be a little bit close between Matthews and Jeff. We'll see what the final results are on that later. Shadow on completely burnt out tires, though, is still pulling on Railgun and Maze. But at the head of the field, it is Dex Carino. Started from the pole, led the most laps, although there's some strategic up in the air. In the end, it doesn't matter if you're on a bad strategy, if you're just way faster than everyone else. Carino sweeps the weekend here at Kylami in the X League. And now we look for second, third, and fourth to the end here. Just 2 more corners left for Shadow. Ooh, that's a big slide. Not very ideal for him whatsoever. But it won't matter. Shadow is going to be well clear of Railgun, and I believe pretty clear of Maze. Oh, wait, Maze is just about caught Railgun. Is Maze going to steal a position from Railgun as well? He did! Maze on penalty count back steals second. Railgun gets third, and Shadow is pushed down to fourth. Maze with the second position in the end, despite being run off circuit. Matthews will be the 5th car come across the line, but will he be ahead of Jeff? No! Jeff in the other 4 GT does come home in 5th and clips Matthews, so no top 5 result for the Ferrari team. Breezy Rain in the Chevrolet jumps up to 7th due to having a lower penalty count than Tempered Ship and Violet. TCPP Photo will be 10th. Ship will be 8th. Violet will be 9th. Rebirth Quint here. Looks like he's going to come home in 11th. Then Maserati Racer is going to be the 12th car across the line. And I think he'll be well clear enough of Subaru and Agent Diesel. He's not going to lose any positions to them. But your winners, once again, is Dex Carino with Maze, Railgun, Shadow, and Jeff rounding out the rest of the grid here. We're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, we will try and get some post-race interviews with some of our top finishers here tonight at Kylami. What in the devil is this AI doing? What do you mean invite failed? Come on, game. Or not game, it's Xbox, not the game. Come on. Does this work? Oh, here we are. I guess this worked. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Let me double check my stream, make sure that you have the ability to include audio. Yeah, you should. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. Our race is over, and while it was a walk-off at the head of the field by Carino, sweeping the weekend, it was quite a spat in the fight for second, third, and fourth to the end here, and I have with us two of our fighters in that fight to the end, Les Railgun and It's Maze. Railgun, I want to go ahead and start with you. I assume you got your audio included. That was a wacky race. Started second, finished third, but the race had a lot more going on than that. Walk us through that race from your perspective.
Yeah, I kind of got caught off guard by a missile with the Ferrari badge. But yeah, apart from that, it was just trying to recover the entire race. We even had to switch tracks to get a chance to still get P2 or P3 back. But yeah, I kind of got screwed over. The good thing is that I didn't get damaged. At least.
In those final few laps there, when you were fighting with Maze, did you know that Shadow was closing in on you guys at the speed that he was?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that was kind of expect. I was expecting him to reach over to us, but he has a ton of pens, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, and the pins really worked out for you. Assuming that no penalties get removed post-race, you will close down a little bit in the championship fight. I believe the next race is at the Daytona Road Course. How confident do you feel with your Ford GT at the Daytona Road Course coming up?
I'm pretty confident. Yeah, the Daytona is one of the tracks I do. I mean, all right, at least better than Kylami. Kylami's not one of my best tracks. No, apart from that.
All right, one more question. Any hard feelings between you and Mays after the big contact with about 2 laps to go that sent him off circuit?
What contact? I didn't hit anyone on my screen.
Oh, okay. Well, it may have been a miss-see from my end then. That would not be the first time. So, yeah, there may not have been any contact in that case. Well, either way, Railgun, podium result. You'll close down a little bit on the championship, keep the title fight alive with 4 races left. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate.
All right, my pleasure.
Yep, and now I want to go ahead and talk with our second place finisher, Mays. Mays, you were started 4th and finished 2nd, but boy, you were all over the track today. Somehow, off the back of time penalties, ended up stealing the 2nd place result and got a great result for the Chevy team as well. What do you have to say about your run out there?
Yeah, I mean, just did my best. I mean, Kylami is one of my favorite tracks, so I had high hopes for myself for at least a podium. Made a lot of silly mistakes, but also feel like I did better than I did last week's race. So, had a bunch of good battles. Railgun, I don't think he hit me. I think I just went off track, so I think we're all good. I had a lot of fun battling him. I didn't really know what tire strategy he chose or what tires he was on at the end, if he was matching me or not, or there was just so much commotion and different strats. So kind of hard to keep up with everyone, including myself at the same time, but lucky enough, Shadow, committed murder out there, so had about 8 seconds of penalties, and snuck into the 2nd place, so all in all, pretty happy, and yeah, I'll take this and run with it.
All right, this will let you close in significantly on the championship fight against both Railgun and Shadow. 4 races left in the season. Do you still think you have a shot at the Drivers' Championship?
I don't know. We got some really talented guys, racers in here. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe so. But, all I can do is try my best, try to help my team out at the very least. And if the Drivers' Championship happens, it happens. But hopefully we can pull out with the Constructors.
All right, it is Daytona next weekend. How strong do you think the Chevy will be at Daytona?
So the Chevy is probably pretty strong, but I don't know if I am. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
All right, well, we'll definitely keep an eye on that. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this up here?
I just appreciate your work and taking the time to do this, man. It really means a lot to us in the league as a staff member, so I just appreciate you a lot.
All right. Well, I appreciate being invited to come in and cover this stuff, even though sometimes it can feel like racing gets very boring and monotonous and you feel like you know what's going to happen before anything starts. It's races like this where things get kind of wild and all up in the air near the end. This is the stuff that I live for. So, yeah, thanks for having me here anyway. And with that in mind, that will pretty much wrap up our broadcast here from Kylami. One more thing to note, on your podium, 3 different manufacturers in the top 3 finishing positions, and we had 4 different manufacturers in the top 6 positions as well. With that said and done, I've been your host for today's broadcast in St. Lear 13. Thank you everyone for joining us. Farewell and goodbye, everyone. Yep.